other important initiatives our allies and industry are undertaking to ensure we have the capabilities we need for our security. Upfront, I want to make clear that our ability to deliver on many of the initiatives we are announcing today begins with how NATO engages with our industry. We want it to be simpler and faster. We cannot defend ourselves without you. That is why today we are launching the NATO front door for industry. This is a new platform to make sure industry is aware of opportunities and to streamline their engagement with the alliance. The door is now open. This front door is your single point to access everything, from procurement opportunities to innovation events. I encourage you all to visit, engage with us through this platform, test it, and also provide feedback. We are going to continually refine the platform in the coming month and aim to have it fully operational in 2027. I want you all to know that this is a new phase of NATO's relationship with industries. Now, I'm also very excited to announce a new initiative, the NATO Engine. This is about transatlantic cooperation through industrial production. No single nation has the industrial capacity required to meet a large and growing demand, especially for some of the capabilities we need most, such as air defense and strike capabilities. To rebuild our arsenals and outproduce our competitors, we need to produce capabilities at scale and supercharge innovation. The NATO Engine will support our most promising companies to scale cross-border production and collaboration on both sides of the Atlantic without huge investment. It will establish a network of factories and advanced manufacturing facilities with available capacity accessible to our defense industries and innovation ecosystems, matching spare capacity with those that want to produce fast, and we hope resulting in dramatically increased production. This will be the engine to spur on our production even further. Let's now move on to the next announcements. The very nature of the NATO alliance is cooperation across the Atlantic. So I am particularly pleased to announce major initiatives that our allies are undertaking together, not least on essential air defense and strike capabilities. We know these are crucial capabilities on the battlefield and vital to our shared security. And we know we need a lot more of them for our own defense as well as to support Ukraine. So first, several NATO allies are joining new multinational procurement coalitions. This really helps us get more of what we need across a range of capabilities, including naval and joint strike missiles and small diameter bombs. By aggregating demand and cohering procurement approaches, industrial capacity efforts and investments, allies can truly begin to close specific capability gaps. We are pleased to see a range of allies working notably with Kongsberg, Raytheon, Boeing, and RWM Italia on some of these initiatives. Second, I welcome that the United States and several of its leading defense companies, including Anduril, Boeing, General Dynamics, Land Systems, Lockheed Martin, and Raytheon, have agreed new industrial cooperation initiatives with major European players in the defense sector, like Diehl, PGZ, and Rheinmetall. This will allow us to produce or sustain key American capabilities, such as Abrams tanks, MRAMs, ATACMS, the Barracuda 500M, small diameter bombs, and Stingers here in Europe. I think this is big news and demonstration of NATO's signature transatlantic unity in delivering key capabilities for our joint security. We can do more when we do it together, and we must do more of it.
Thank you so much, Secretary General. Now, with respect to our announcement on industrial cooperation agreements with the United States, I would like to invite U.S. Undersecretary of War for Acquisition and Sustainment, Mike Duffy, to the stage. And I would like to invite the additional participating allied representatives of the industrial cooperation agreements to the stage. Belgium, Canada, Finland, Germany, the Netherlands, Poland, Norway, and Sweden. And on the industry side, I would also like to invite representatives from Anduril, Diehl, General Dynamics Land Systems, Lockheed Martin, PGZ, Raytheon, Rheinmetall, and the NATO Support and Procurement Agency. All right, I will invite all allied representatives to remain on the stage along with Raytheon. Other industry representatives may return to their seats. And I would now like to invite the additional participating allied representatives of our procurement coalitions to the stage. Denmark, Estonia, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Portugal, Romania, Spain, and the United Kingdom. And for industry, I would also like to invite representatives from Boeing and Kongsberg to the stage. Thank you so much. Allied representatives and industry may return to their seats. Secretary General, I would like to turn back to you to announce our new initiative on defense critical raw materials.
Because indeed, today we are launching a multinational project on defense critical raw materials. For our defense to remain ready and strong, we need our industrial base and our supply chains to be resilient and secure. This means we need a stable supply of materials and companies and components across critical sectors. regardless of potential shocks or disruptions. That's what this new project is all about. Several allies are committed to working together to acquire, store, transport and manage stockpiles of defense critical materials, components and recycled products. This project demonstrates allies' strong belief in a cooperative approach as the best way to increase security.
I would now like to invite the participating allied representatives of the Defense Critical Raw Materials Initiative to the stage. Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Finland, Greece, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Sweden, and Turkey. Thank you very much. Allies, you may return to your seats. And we will now introduce NATO's Drone Edge initiative, and we have a video to play.
NATO Flight Training Europe. Today, Finland, France and Sweden joined this project, bringing the total number of allies to 20. with 16 flight training centers across 8 allies. Together, we are building a drone-ready alliance. We are leveraging the latest innovative technologies, investing in our transatlantic defense industries, and learning real-world lessons from the battlefield in Ukraine. There's more to come this morning, so please stay tuned.
Indeed, there is more to come.
But first, applause for me and for all these announcements.
Thank you so much. There is indeed more to come. Thank you, Secretary General. And thank you all for your attention. The announcements will continue, and we will have NATO's Deputy Secretary General, Radmila Shekarinska, join us in just a moment to outline even more new initiatives that NATO, allies, and industry are undertaking in the areas of space and surveillance, strike capabilities, and integrated air and missile defense. So I'd like to invite Mark Sanders, NATO's Deputy Spokesperson, to introduce the next segment.
Thank you very much. We still have many more exciting announcements for you today, and we'll be continuing with the next hour or so with the same format you're now familiar with. For those of you participating in this segment, I will ask you to be ready to come to the stage when I call your country or company. We'll begin with new announcements in the field of space and surveillance after a short video. Deputy Secretary General, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning, everyone. Before I start the big announcements, and this is the part you're all waiting for, let me share how honored and pleased I am to be here with you today. And also to see that our big defense industry forum takes form. We wanted to make this the biggest defense industry forum ever, and I'm pleased to say we succeeded. It's really quite a show. Our governments and our companies and the people working in them are contributing to making NATO's defenses stronger, to make our militaries more capable, and ultimately our people safer. So this is why we are here today. So without further ado, let me jump right into it. And I will start with, of course, space and surveillance, for which we have already seen the video. Let me start by saying that space is no longer the distant frontier it once was. It is part of our critical infrastructure on which a large part of our economy depends, but also it is essential for our security. Our militaries could not function properly today without space-based capabilities. Space technology has become more affordable, and launch costs have significantly decreased. As a result, more countries are investing in their own satellite constellations. Let me mention 4 projects that will enhance our collective space capabilities. And the first one has to do with one of the biggest challenges in the space domain, and that is connectivity. Individual satellite constellations are highly vulnerable to targeted cyber attacks, to jamming or physical destruction, while also being too slow to relay large amounts of data on their own. So today, I'm really pleased to announce that 8 allies are launching a project to explore the development of a mega constellation called HALO, opening a new chapter in allied space operations. So this new model will be particularly helpful for high-speed communications, intelligence and missile tracking, overcoming the cost, the time, and coverage limitations of single-nation satellite fleets. The second one is our NATO flagship initiative for space-based intelligence, which is called Alliance Persistent Surveillance from Space, APSS. It was launched 2 years ago at the Washington Summit, and today Spain will become the 19th country to join the initiative. Spain will contribute by boosting coastal surveillance through imagery from its Atlantic constellation satellites. Third is the recent investment by our host nation, Turkey. Following the success of its original IMECE Earth observation satellite, Turkey is announcing an ambitious plan for the development of 2 additional high-resolution satellites. They will be built here in Turkey by the TÜBİTAK Space Institute with a contract worth over $300 million. Turkey has also signed contracts with Aselsan for the development of low-orbit satellites and military communication systems, as well as the procurement and development of early warning radar systems within the scope of the Steel Dome National Integrated Air Defense Architecture. These contracts are worth in total over $350 million. And they will enhance Turkey's ability to remain connected on the battlefield and their detection and early warning capabilities. These initiatives will contribute to the already robust space and surveillance capabilities in the region. And the fourth one has to do with the fact that space activity demands resilient launch infrastructure. Several NATO allies and Indo-Pacific partners are working on the Starlift initiative to create a network of launch companies and spaceports that could be used, for instance, to launch a replacement satellite in case of an emergency. In addition, today, the German company ISOR Aerospace will sign a $140 million contract with the Canadian Maritime Launch Services to secure the lease of a launch pad at the Space Launch Site in Nova Scotia. These partnerships will improve orbital launch readiness. And all the projects that I have mentioned, from Canada to Turkey, are excellent examples of transatlantic cooperation in action, something that we are seeing throughout today. So I return the floor now back to Mark.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary General. I would now like to invite to the stage the participating allied representatives of the HALO High Visibility Project. Denmark, Canada, Finland, Germany, Norway, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Turkey. Thank you. I would invite the representatives of Canada and Turkey to remain on stage. The other allied representatives may return to their seats. I would now like to invite industry representatives from ISAR Aerospace and Maritime Launch Services, Aselsan, and TÜBİTAK. Thank you. I would like to invite Belgium and Turkey to remain on the stage. The other representatives may return to their seats. For the new joint procurement initiative of the Netherlands and Belgium and the Turkish investments in IAMD, highlighted by the DSG, I would now like to invite allied representatives from the Netherlands and Turkey to join Belgium on the stage, as well as industry representatives from Aselsan and Roketsan. Thank you very much. You may return to your seats. Deputy Secretary General.
So today we demonstrated our commitment to really turn cash into capabilities. Allies are putting the extra defense spending at work. We have done this through an impressive range of announcements and contracts for delivering capabilities across a wide set of really critical areas. Now it is time to, in a way, seal the deals by putting pen to paper. For this, I would like to invite all contributing allies to come on stage and sign on the dotted line. And at the same time, we will acknowledge the indispensable role of our partners in industry and the NATO agencies for delivering real-world solutions in response to these commitments. And this will really be the first step for turning what we articulated over the course of today into reality. So please join me at the stage.
I now invite all allies signing one of the initiatives highlighted today to come to the stage. You will find your flag at your seat, as well as the documents you have agreed to sign today. So to the stage, please. Belgium, Canada, Croatia, Czechia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Iceland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Spain, Sweden, Turkey, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Thank you all. You may now sign the documents in front of you. Thank you all. I now invite our signatories to the stairs, together with the NATO's Deputy Secretary General at the center of the stage for a group photo, please. I also now invite all of the companies who are contributing to the initiatives highlighted today to the stairs to join this photograph. Accenture, Airbus, Anduril, Aselsan, Athea SAS, Boeing, Diehl, General Dynamics Land Systems, Isar Aerospace, Kongsberg, Lockheed Martin, MLS, Northrop Grumman, Palantir Technologies, Patria, PJZ, Raytheon, Rheinmetall, Rocketsan, Saab, Shield AI, STM, Tubitak, as well as the general managers of the NATO Support and Procurement Agency and the NATO Communications and Information Agency. To the stage, please. Thank you all for being here today and for following us online. This concludes this segment of our announcement ceremony, and thank you to the Deputy Secretary General.
you heard, the NATO Secretary General and the Deputy Secretary General made a series of important announcements. And they demonstrated how the alliance is uniting, innovating, and also delivering on production capacity and also on the capabilities that matter the most. And you can read all about these announcements on the NATO website and also, of course, in the press. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an amazing and very rich afternoon ahead for you today. And we have gathered here heads of state, ministers, CEOs from a very wide range of industries. And they will be sharing how NATO is working to deliver on its commitment to rapidly ramp up defense industrial production and innovation across the alliance. And before we begin, please, phones on silent. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start. Please join me in welcoming to the stage the Minister of National Defense of Turkey, Yaşar Güler. Excellency, the stage is yours.
Sayın Cumhurbaşkanı Yardımcım, Sayın Genel Sekreter, Sayın Bakanlar, değerli komutanlar, savunma sanayinin değerli temsilcileri ve kıymetli konuklar, sizleri saygıyla selamlıyorum. NATO Savunma Sanayi Forumu vesilesiyle sizlerle bir arada bulunmaktan büyük bir memnuniyet duyuyorum. Sayın Cumhurbaşkanı Yardımcım, saygıdeğer konuklar, NATO zirvesi kapsamında düzenlenen bu forumda ittifakımızın gelecekteki caydırıcılık ve savunma mimarisini şekillendirecek en kritik alanlardan birini, yani savunma sanayi kapasitemizi, üretim gücümüzü ve yenilikçi kabiliyetlerimizi ele alıyoruz. İçinde bulunduğumuz güvenlik ortamı bizlere çok açık bir gerçeği hatırlatmaktadır. Ülkeler egemenliklerini, hak ve menfaatlerini koruyabilmeleri için güçlü bir devlet yapısına, etkin bir diplomasiye, caydırıcı bir askeri kapasiteye ve sürdürülebilir bir savunma sanayi ekosistemine sahip olmalıdır. Bu çerçevede NATO'nun kolektif savunma anlayışı ve müttefikler arasındaki dayanışma ruhu ve birlikte hareket etme kararlılığı bugün her zamankinden daha fazla önem taşımaktadır. Bu kararlılığı destekleyen üretim kapasitesi, mühimmat stoku, platform modernizasyonu, sürdürülebilir tedarik zincirleri ve hızlı uyum sağlayabilen sanayi ekosistemi de bir o kadar hayatidir. Nitekim Ukrayna'daki savaş, modern harp ortamında mühimmat tedariki hızının, insansız sistemlerin, hava ve füze savunmasının, elektronik harbin ve hızlı inovasyonun ne kadar belirleyici olduğunu göstermiştir. Son dönemde Hürmüz Boğazı ve çevresinde yaşanan gelişmeler ise ulaştırma hatları güvenliğiyle tedarik zinciri yönetiminin artık savunma planlamasının ayrılmaz bir parçası olduğunu bir kez daha ortaya koymuştur. Bu nedenle artık hepimiz için temel soru şudur: taahhütlerimizi ne kadar hızlı, gerçek kabiliyete dönüştürebiliyoruz? Ankara zirvesinin ana hedeflerinden biri de müttefiklerin savunma yatırımındaki artışlarını göstermeleri, yeni yetenek hedeflerine ulaşmaları, üretim kapasitelerini büyütmeleri ve daha güçlü, daha yenilikçi, daha dayanıklı bir transatlantik savunma sanayi tabanını inşa etmeleridir. Bu bilinçle hareket eden Türkiye, savunma sanayindeki yerli ve milli üretim kapasitesini, mühendislik altyapısını küresel ölçekte dikkat çeken bir seviyeye ulaştırmıştır. Bugün kara, deniz ve hava platformlarından insansız sistemlere, elektronik harp kabiliyetlerinden hava savunma çözümlerine kadar geniş bir alanda önemli yetkinliklere sahibiz. Nitekim tersanelerimizde onlarca askeri gemi eş zamanlı olarak inşa edilmektedir. Türkiye, deniz platformları üretiminde sadece kendi ihtiyaçlarını karşılayan değil, aynı zamanda müttefiklerine ve ortaklarına da katkı sunabilen ölçekte bir kapasiteye sahiptir. Kara gücümüzün modernizasyonu kapsamında Altay ana muharebe tankımızın seri üretim safhası, zırhlı kara araçları alanında ulaştığımız teknolojik ve endüstriyel seviyenin somut göstergeleridir. Kaan programı, hava harekat alanında Türkiye'nin yüksek teknolojiye dayalı muharip hava platformları geliştirme kapasitesinde yeni bir lige çıktığını göstermektedir. Mühimmat üretimi de ittifak için en kritik başlıklardan birisidir. Son yıllarda 155 milimetrelik mühimmat üretim kapasitemizi çok hızlı biçimde artırdık ve bu alanda somut sonuç üreten müttefiklerden birisi olduk. Roketsan'ın yeni üretim ve entegrasyon yatırımlarıyla füze ve mühimmat üretim kapasitelerimizi önemli ölçüde büyütüyoruz. Aselsan ve Havelsan gibi şirketlerimizin radar, elektronik harp, haberleşme, komuta kontrol, yazılım, simülasyon ve yapay zeka destekli sistemler alanındaki yatırımları ise savunma sanayi kapasitemizi yalnızca nicelik olarak değil, nitelik olarak da ileri taşımaktadır. Tüm bunlarla birlikte NATO'nun %5 savunma yatırım taahhüdünü de önemli görüyoruz. Zira bu taahhüt aynı zamanda ittifakın caydırıcılığını güçlendirme, savunma üretimini ölçeklendirme ve ihtiyaç duyduğumuz kabiliyetleri zamanında sahaya yansıtma iradesinin somut göstergesidir. Sayın Cumhurbaşkanı Yardımcım, değerli konuklar, yaşanan savaşlar ve çatışmalar göstermiştir ki sahadaki başarı yalnızca mevcut stoklara değil, aynı zamanda hızlı öğrenme, hızlı üretme ve hızlı uyarlama kapasitesine bağlıdır. Drone teknolojilerinden elektronik harbe, mühimmat üretiminden yazılım güncellemelerine kadar birçok alanda askerler, mühendisler, girişimciler ve karar vericiler arasındaki mesafe kısaldıkça cephedeki etkinlik de bir o kadar artmaktadır. Bu nedenle bizlerin görevi barış zamanında bu işbirliği kültürünü inşa etmektir. Kriz ortaya çıktıktan sonra üretim hattı kurmak, tedarik zinciri oluşturmak veya ortak standart geliştirmek çok geç olabilir. Hazırlık bugünden yapılmalıdır. Çağrımız açıktır. Taahhütleri kabiliyete dönüştürelim. Kaynakları üretime dönüştürelim. Sanayi gücümüzü caydırıcılığa dönüştürelim ve ittifakımızın güvenliğini sözlerle değil, sahada karşılığı olan somut kapasiteyle güçlendirelim. Bu çerçevede forum boyunca yapılacak temas ve değerlendirmelerin gerçek projelere, ortak girişimlere, üretim mutabakatlarına ve kabiliyet çıktılarına dönüşmesini temenni ediyorum. Bu duygu ve düşüncelerle sizleri bir kez daha saygıyla selamlıyor ve tüm katılımcılara teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum. Thank you.
Çok teşekkür ederim, Minister Yaşar Güler. Thank you very much indeed for your comments there. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we continue. Please join me now in giving a very warm welcome to the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte. The stage is yours, Secretary General.
Thank you, Maria, Mr. Vice President, Excellencies, dear friends. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the NATO Summit Defense Industry Forum. As we are in the middle of the World Cup, Let me start with a little football analogy. And I do this with a heavy heart, as the Netherlands, my country, has been kicked out. And also Curaçao, which is part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, has been kicked out of the World Cup. But still, I maintain the football analogy. Because there is something I believe football teaches us. No team wins because of one brilliant player. We need a goalkeeper, you need the defenders, the midfielders, the strikers. And yes, everyone notices the player who scores the winning goal. But behind every successful player and team out on the pitch are many others on the bench and behind the scenes. The coaches, the trainers, the analysts, the people making sure everything works. Everyone matters, no one wins alone. NATO is much the same. It takes a whole team to deter and defend most effectively. Our political leaders set the direction. Our armed forces are on the pitch every single day. And you, our defense industry, provide the strength behind the team. The equipment, the innovation, the production capacity. To have power, resilience and endurance, we all need to be fully engaged in the game. Working together for our shared security. You need us at NATO to tell you what our militaries need. That is the demand. And we need you to turn those requirements into real capabilities. That is the supply. That is why it is so crucial that we continue to build cooperation between NATO and industry. I have seen it grow and develop since I took over in 2024. I visited factories and facilities across the alliance, including here in Turkey. I've spoken with company leaders, engineers and workers on the factory floor. I've seen the innovation. I've seen the opportunity. And I see our partnership in action right here at this forum. This is what teamwork looks like. And this is a team that knows how to score. Last year at the NATO Summit in The Hague, allies made important commitments to invest 5% of GDP in defense, to accelerate production and to speed up innovation. 1 year later, we can already see the results. Last year alone, European allies and Canada spent nearly 20% more on defense than the year before. An extra $139 billion. Looking at 2025 and 2026 together, it is an increase, again, Canada and the Europeans, of $258 billion, more than 250 billion. And that's just the additional investment. So basically one thing is clear. The money is there and much more is coming. But this cash must be put to work. It needs to purchase capabilities to actually deter and defend. Governments and the defense industry are laying the path by investing in expanding defense production. Over the last year alone, we have seen $37 billion invested in just boosting our defense industrial base itself. Again, think about this number, 37 billion to boost our defense industrial base. So larger factories, new production lines, more capacity. In fact, there is enough additional production space to cover more than 2,000 football pitches. And just this morning at the forum, substantial new contracts were signed and more big announcements were made. Altogether worth tens of billions of dollars and growing. That means more air defense systems and strike capabilities, more satellite communications, more ammunition, more drones and counter-drone systems. and increased resilience and preparedness. According to our projections, by next year, the alliance will have the capacity to produce around 4 million artillery shells annually. Almost twice as many as last year. That's scale. So yes, we have made real progress. We are moving in the right direction. The strategy is clear. But the match is far from over. And to win it, we need all team members to pull their weight. Do more, faster, together. We don't have the luxury of time. We need capabilities now to ensure we remain ready. The security situation demands it. Russia. Russia is pouring almost half of its national budget into its war machine. Can you imagine? Almost 50% of what Russia spends is put into the war machine. Its defense industry is working around the clock. And not only the defense industry, also the rest of the industrial base in Russia is supporting the war effort. China continues to modernize its armed forces and expand its nuclear capabilities without transparency. North Korea continues to expand its nuclear program and supply Russia. And while recent US action has significantly degraded Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs, we must remain vigilant. These countries are increasingly working together. And that should concern us all. Because I assure you, they do not have our best interests in mind. So that's what we are up against. That's the reality we face. To meet the challenge, we need a transatlantic defense industrial revolution. The hum of machinery must become a roar. Now, that sounds dramatic, but it can be done. Governments have their role to play. They must continue placing long-term orders and signing contracts. Today is an excellent example of that kind of contracts we need to put on the table. More of that, please. We need a bonfire of red tape in our procurement and in our cross-border regulation. Both government and industry must continue investing in production capacity. Governments must also create the conditions for industry to expand and cooperate. Factories need reliable energy, electricity and fuel. They need secure supply chains. And above all, they need skilled people. Engineers, technicians, innovators. At the same time, industry across all of the nations represented here must be ready to take more risk. The demand is there and you know it. We are being much more open about what we need. At the summit, we are releasing publicly for the first time a consolidated demand signal outlining our requirements. We will help ensure you know the demand and understand it. And you also know the market is growing. Allies will continue to invest in defense. This is not an anomaly, this is a trend. Lastly, no single nation and no single industry can power an industrial revolution alone. But the good news is that we don't have to, because we have NATO. We combine the assets, the technologies and the industries of 32 countries across Europe and North America. That's incredibly powerful. We have an unequal pool of talent, creativity and expertise out there. And many are right here in this room today. And we are even stronger when we work together with our partners. With Ukraine, of course, which continues to innovate at incredible speed. It now boasts an unparalleled drone ecosystem. And we are creating opportunities for more industrial cooperation and co-production with Ukraine. We must seize this opportunity. We are also building industrial cooperation with the European Union and countries in the Indo-Pacific. I've seen the Japanese defense minister and others here in this room today. Welcome. Because when we combine our efforts, we produce more, we innovate faster, and we strengthen all our security. So today, we are on the cusp of the transatlantic defense industrial revolution. I'm asking you to take a leap and show our people that we are ready and capable to protect them anywhere at any time. And show Russia and all those watching today that the transatlantic defense industrial base is mobilizing with purpose. Not in anger, but for our collective security. So let me finish where I started. Winning teams prepare. They train, they invest, they build trust, and they keep improving. That's exactly what we must continue to do. The partnership between NATO and industry is the winning one. So now, let's deliver even more, even faster, and together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we continue. Thank you so much, Secretary General Mark Rutte, and thank you for that analogy also with regards to football, very important. All right, for our next keynote, it's a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome to the stage the Vice President of Turkey, Cevdet Yilmaz. Excellency, the floor is yours. Welcome to you.
Saygıdeğer Genel Sekreteri Sayın Mark Rutte, Çekya Başbakanı, değerli bakanlar, NATO üyesi ülkelerin kıymetli yetkilileri, değerli misafirler, hanımefendiler, beyefendiler, hepinizi saygıyla selamlıyorum. Ankara'ya, NATO Ankara Zirvesi Savunma Sanayi Forumu'na hoş geldiniz diyorum. Bildiğiniz gibi bundan 22 sene önce İstanbul'da NATO'ya ev sahipliği yapmıştık. Bugün Türkiye'de savunma sanayinin kalbi konumunda olan başkentimiz Ankara'da sizleri bir kez daha misafir etmekten ve ittifakımızın bu önemli toplantısını gerçekleştiriyor olmaktan büyük bir memnuniyet duyuyoruz. Bugün müttefik ve ortak ülkeler olarak hepimizi etkileyen küresel gelişmeleri değerlendirecek, ortaya çıkan yeni fırsatları ve zorlukları ve bunlara yönelik atabileceğimiz adımları istişare edecek imkanı bulacağız. Değerli konuklar, bugünkü forumda ve yarınki zirvede ittifakımız yeni bir döneme adım atmaktadır. NATO 3.0 olarak da adlandırılan bu yeni dönemde ittifak içinde külfetin giderek daha adil biçimde paylaşıldığını göreceğimizi düşünüyorum. Zira gelinen aşamada mevcut jeopolitik sınamalar ışığında NATO içinde daha güçlü bir Avrupa sütunu inşa edilmesi bir zorunluluk haline gelmiştir. Geçtiğimiz yıl Lahey'de aldığımız savunma harcamalarındaki artış kararının tüm müttefikler tarafından kayda değer ölçüde yerine getirildiğini ve savunma harcamalarına yönelik yaklaşımın köklü bir şekilde dönüştüğünü görüyoruz. Şimdi önümüzdeki sınama artan savunma harcamalarının somut yeteneklere dönüştürülmesi ve bunun için gerekli sanayi üretim kapasitesinin oluşturulmasıdır. Hepimizin üretim kapasitemizi hızla ve birbiriyle uyum içinde genişletmemiz gerektiği yönündeki tespitlere katılıyorum. Bu bağlamda Sayın Rutte'nin sıklıkla kullandığı Teksas'tan Ankara'ya ifadesi son derece anlamlıdır. Kıymetli misafirler, Cumhurbaşkanımız Sayın Recep Tayyip Erdoğan'ın güçlü siyasi iradesiyle Türkiye, içinde bulunduğumuz dönemin ruhunu erken bir aşamada kavramanın ve savunma sanayinde erken bir dönemde yola çıkmış olmanın avantajını yaşamaktadır. Bugün Türkiye, dünyada savunma ihracatçısı ülkeler arasında 11. sırada yer alıyor. Yakın bir gelecekte ilk 10 arasına girmeyi hedefliyoruz. Futbol tabiriyle ifade edecek olursak Türkiye 1. ligde olmayı hedefleyen bir ülke konumunda. Savunma sanayimiz pek çok açıdan kapsamlı bir dönüşüm geçirmiştir. Ürün yelpazemiz artık hava, kara, deniz, siber ve uzay alanlarının hepsini kapsamaktadır. Bu çabalarımız sonucunda Türk Silahlı Kuvvetlerimizin envanterinin yerlilik oranı %80'i aşmıştır. Bununla birlikte Türkiye, müttefik ülkeler için de güvenilir bir tedarik kaynağı ve proje ortağı haline gelmiştir. Savunma ve havacılık ihracatımız son bir yıllık dönemde 11 milyar doları aşmıştır. İhracatımızın yarıdan fazlası NATO müttefiklerimize ve Avrupa Birliği üyesi ülkelere gerçekleştirilmiştir. Türkiye bugün tüm dünyanın takdirini kazanmış İHA ve SİHA'larıyla elektronik harp sisteminden savaş gemilerine, 5. nesil savaş uçağından derin taarruz yeteneklerine kadar her alanda son teknolojiye sahip sistemleri üretebilmektedir. Dünyanın en büyük 100 savunma şirketinden 5'i Türk şirketleridir. Savunma sanayinde geldiğimiz bu aşama asla tesadüf değildir. Türkiye bu ilerlemeyi kamu ve sanayinin birlikte çalışmasıyla ve savunma sanayi firmalarını sürece en başından itibaren dahil ederek gerçekleştirmiştir. Bugün Sayın Genel Sekreter tarafından duyurulan NATO'nun sanayi işbirliğine yönelik yeni stratejisi de esasen buna işaret etmektedir. Değerli konuklar, savunma sanayi dayanıklılığı artık sadece hükümetlerin ve şirketlerin meselesi olmaktan çıkmıştır. Bu alanda başarı ancak üniversiteler, finans sektörü, iş gücü gibi toplumun tüm katmanlarının sürece dahil edilmesiyle mümkün olabilecektir. Tüm bu yapı her şeyden önce insan gücüne dayanmaktadır. Bugün Türkiye'nin savunma sanayi iş gücünün ortalama yaşı 34'tür. Mühendislerimizin yarısını ise kadınlar, genç kızlar oluşturmaktadır. Bu da bize şunu söylüyor, gelecek bizim. Genç iş gücümüzle. Güçlü bir savunma sanayinin en önemli unsurlarından birinin yetenek havuzunun derinliği olduğunun bilinciyle bu iş gücünü daha da geliştirmeye kararlıyız. Gerek 100.000'i aşkın nitelikli istihdam, gerek hızla artan ihracat, gerekse sivil endüstrilere sirayet eden teknolojik yenilikler ile savunma sanayimiz aynı zamanda ekonomik kalkınmamıza ve sosyal refahımıza da katkı sunmaktadır. Ben yıllarca Kalkınma Bakanlığı yaptım. Savunma sanayi sadece güvenliği değil, teknolojik seviyeyi yükselterek tüm kalkınma sürecini de desteklemektedir. Aynı şekilde yapay zeka başta olmak üzere teknolojinin oyun değiştirici gelişimi göz önüne alındığında savunma sanayinde inovasyonun önemi hiç olmadığı kadar artmış, araştırma geliştirme çabaları sürecin ayrılmaz bir parçası olmuştur. Diğer yandan savunma sanayinin gelişimi için uluslararası işbirliği de kritik önem taşımaktadır. Türkiye bu alandaki işbirliklerini sadece ihracat zaviyesinden değil, müttefiklerle ortak üretim, tasarım ve geliştirme perspektifinden ele almaktadır. Geçtiğimiz hafta Sayın Cumhurbaşkanımızın müttefik parlamenterlere açıkça ifade ettiği üzere savunma sanayi ticareti ve işbirliğinin önündeki engelleri hep birlikte kaldırmalıyız. Müttefikler arasında savunma alanındaki ticari kısıtlamaları ve yaptırımları mutlaka hep birlikte ortadan kaldırmalıyız. İttifakın askeri hazırlık düzeyini arttırmak istiyorsak, kolektif güvenliğimizi güçlendirmek istiyorsak, bu anlamsız yaptırımları, kısıtlamaları hep birlikte masadan temizlemeliyiz. Bu nedenle hem müttefikler arası ikili düzeydeki tüm kısıtlamalar kaldırılmalı, hem de NATO'nun Avrupa sütununa önemli katkı sağlayan Türkiye, başta AB olmak üzere Avrupa'daki tüm savunma ve güvenlik girişimlerine katılabilmelidir. Aksi takdirde üretim kapasitesinin gelişimi yavaşlayacak ve üretim maliyetleri artacaktır. Daha dayanıklı bir Avrupa Atlantik güvenliği, üretim kapasitesini, teknoloji birikimini ve operasyonel tecrübeyi aynı stratejik hedefe yönlendirebilen bir güvenlik mimarisiyle mümkündür. Türkiye bu mimaride güçlü, güvenilir ve katkı sağlayan bir ortak olarak yer almaya hazırdır. Değerli katılımcılar, bugün bu anlayış temelinde savunma sanayi işbirliğine yeni bir istikamet vermek üzere yapacağımız görüşmelerin şimdiden hayırlı olmasını, tüm ülkeler için ve NATO için yararlı sonuçlar doğurmasını diliyorum. Temaslarınızın yeni işbirliklerine kapılar aralayacağına canı gönülden inanıyorum. Sabah oturumlarında yapılan ve günün geri kalanında yapılacak olan görüşmelerin, anlaşmaların ve duyuruların NATO'nun caydırıcılık ve savunmasına önemli katkılar sağlayacağına ve müttefikler arasında daha güçlü sanayi işbirliği için yollar açacağına eminim. Bu düşüncelerle hepinizi tekrar saygıyla, sevgiyle selamlıyor. Ankara'ya, Türkiye'ye tekrar hoş geldiniz diyor.
Çok teşekkür ederim Cevdet Yilmaz. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, if I may, speaking on behalf of all of us, how happy we are and grateful for Turkey's generosity and hospitality as hosts of this important event. Teşekkür ederim, Turkey. Thank you very much indeed for being such graceful hosts. Ladies and gentlemen, we move now to our panels, and we'll be starting with one entitled Navigating the Ramp Up, a Conversation with Industry. And I think it's clear to everyone in this room that industrial might and military might go hand in hand. And our conversation this afternoon is just that, navigating the ramp up, a conversation with industry. Now, this features several private sector leaders who are working to ensure our militaries are getting what they need. And for this session, we're very happy to have our moderator, who will be Jenna Ben Yehuda, Executive Vice President at the Atlantic Council. And our panelists will be Uwe Hurstman, Chief Executive Officer at Stark Defense, plus Jay Pittman, President of Lockheed Martin International, and Charles Woodburn, Group Chief Executive Officer at BAE Systems. I now invite you all to join me here on stage. Welcome to you. Jenna, hi.
Just 1 year after the alliance adopted a bold new defense commitment to increase defense spending in The Hague. What a year it's been. We're already seeing real strides, but we know that turning those new defense dollars, euros, and lira into real capabilities is easier said than done. And realizing this once-in-a-generation defense transformation really demands a whole-of-society approach that is led by governments working in lockstep with industry. We know that's not easy to do. And it's a challenge that institutions across the alliance are grappling with, including at the Atlantic Council through our ongoing task force on reimagining European defense and innovation. So in recognition of these shared challenges, and with an eye toward bold and innovative solution, it's really a privilege to moderate this panel, and I'm delighted to be joined here on stage by an esteemed group of military leaders. We have Uwe Horstmann, the founder and chief executive officer of Stark. Uwe has been a leading voice for investment in European sovereignty for the last 15 years. Jay Pittman, the president of Lockheed Martin International. Jay is responsible for driving strategies to provide mission capability to allies and oversees the company's business and markets outside of the United States. And Dr. Charles Woodburn, the Group Chief Executive Officer at BAE Systems. He's an experienced business leader with more than 28 years of experience in defense and aerospace and oil and gas industries. So we have tight time and about 3 days worth of content to get into, so I'm going to jump right in here. There's been a lot of discussion about industrial ramp up, and we know that contracts are the obvious lever, but they're not the only one. And so as we look beyond contracting, what government or industry initiatives do you think have actually moved the needle on scaling up defense production? So what's working and what's missing? Uwe, let's start with you.
Of course, yeah. Thank you. I think that's exactly the right question, right? Because that is probably also what gets us from an abundance of money available, as the Secretary General just said. There's more to come. How do we translate that into actual capabilities? Because just price increases is probably not the right way. And I think we would always be well advised to look towards Ukraine and figure out what is the role model that we should look up to. And for me, that is really building an innovation ecosystem, getting that innovation ecosystem going. It's much more that than just this one single capability that we maybe hope for is going to solve all of our issues. So diving deeper into that, I think that's also where I look to when trying to answer your question. Two things. A, I think we need to continue on the path to design for mass production. When we have people come to our facilities, we had production experts there the other day, and they said like, wow, this looks like a washing machine factory. And I'm not sure if they tried to insult us, but actually we wear it as a badge of honor, because if you get your production for an unmanned mass-scale weapon system at the complexity of a washing machine, you're probably going in the right way. So I think we should continue with our procurement to not forget, but really strengthen that part of the industry. There's other parts, if I pick out a second one, where I think I would describe myself as a paranoid optimist. So I think we're moving in that direction, but we probably could always go faster. I think specifically in my part, in my component of the capabilities, again, unmanned, mass producible, software defined, we can still work a lot on certification. Certification itself, of course, is a massively important step for us. What do I mean by that? Concretely, I think we need more testing facilities, certification facilities in Europe. We can probably condense the procurement with the testing and the certification even further. And we probably should also look more into how certification in one country can also be absorbed by another country. So those are a few things where I would say we're following the blueprint of Ukraine, which is not one single wonder weapon, but the ecosystem organization is the wonder weapon, of course, combined with industrial production output. And if I think we follow that path, generally, that's the right way to go.
Charles, you've mentioned that you're really feeling this change, and Uwe has pointed to some of those elements. What else are you seeing in your space that you feel like is really on the march?
Well, I was going to say specifically, one of the things that we have seen in the last 12 months is a much more active partnership between the traditional defense industries, such as ourselves or Jay's, and the sort of new entrants, the disruptors in the space. And I think that's benefited all of us. I mean, this whole idea that 80% can be good enough for a lot of what we do, and the fact that if we're going to fight a common fight and combine on common systems, open architectures, we're all being driven in the same direction. So I see in the last 12 months, I think quite a significant shift towards partnership between new entrants in defense and ourselves. And I think that's a really good thing going forward. I think to your point, great progress on partnerships generally. I mean, we have some good examples across Europe. I think often people criticize Europe as being quite fragmented, but we should also highlight where we do have really good partnership programs. You've got Eurofighter or RCV90, for example, or Type 26 sail into Norway, where we're combining capabilities. I think as SecGen spoke earlier, the importance of a consolidated demand signal is incredibly important. But I think NATO have got a lot better at giving industry what they have. And I think finally, as a global player, and Jay would be in the same position, where we see countries within the alliance or indeed outside the alliance doing sort of best-in-class procurements, and I'll hand over to Jay to talk about the missile procurements, the ramp-ups in the US, they look genuinely best in class, the way those contracts are being structured. It's important that we explain that to our other global customers, because where we see good, it's important that everybody learns from that. And sometimes as a global defense company, that's a role that we can fulfill.
So Jay, I want to give you a chance to respond to that. And you're obviously representing an American company based overseas, looking at the global market. What has your experience been like of this shift in the last 18 months?
Yeah, at first, obviously, we would like to be considered a global company, but
Surely.
understood fully. But no, Charles, thanks for the tee up. I think we've had lots of good discussion about this. We heard some of it this morning. When you have a better forecast of aggregated demand, you look at it in a multi-year situation, industry can show up differently. There's creative things we can do in terms of capital and financing and requirements to be able to drive through the supply base. As many know, the Department of War's acquisition transformation strategy and some of the things that have gone on within the United States has really done a generational shift in how we get at what they call framework agreements. I'm proud from Lockheed Martin. We were kind of the first to the party in terms of being able to go sign and document out one of those framework agreements, now multiple framework agreements. And what it's doing is we're not talking just normal stair-step increases in things like munitions. In some cases, we're quadrupling production lines. And it's not just borne on the expense of the US government and trying to facilitate us. It allows industry, it allows supply chain to go off and invest differently, think differently of how we show up. So from a Lockheed Martin perspective, it's allowed us over a few-year period to invest about $9 billion in terms of capital and in infrastructure and site expansion, additional sites, et cetera. But as Charles was saying just a moment ago, I hope that lends as a message that if we unfortunately, we end up having multiple channels of effort that sometimes occur. We might have efforts in the United States, we might have efforts across Europe, we might have efforts across NATO, we have efforts beyond, obviously, those countries and regions on the world stage. If we can have more aggregation of that and work with companies, such as all of us on the panel, and make sure that we're attacking the requirement space in a way that we can show up with a solution versus a prescribed in a box, then sometimes we can come up with some very, very creative solutions. And in this case, this is how we're getting at quadrupling demand.
So I want to come back to you, Uwe, on capital shifts that you're seeing and these shifting requirements question. But first, Charles, I want to come back to you. What's missing from this? We've seen kind of a call for consolidated requirements, things that help you do more faster. What else is on that list?
Well, it's not like one thing, it's just pace generally. And I think as the Secretary General said, translating it from a hum to a roar, it's the acceleration of many of the initiatives. I'm not sitting here thinking there's something key missing. We just need it more pace. I mean, in industry, we're investing at record levels, CapEx, self-funded R&D. Industry will happily do that when we see and there's a clear business case ahead of us. So the more we can do to consolidate that and build the business case, the quicker we can move. And for a company such as ours, we have no shortage of capital to deploy, and we're ready to do that when we see the business case, as we have been doing. So I think pace, it's not that pace is missing, but we can always do with more pace.
So that shared commitment for velocity.
Indeed.
I want to come back to you on capital. We hear a lot about this need to deepen an innovation ecosystem across Europe in particular. Lack of capital is sometimes cited. What shifts have you seen afoot? Is that really still the question worth asking?
I think so. I mean, it's been a super interesting journey over the past, I want to say, 5 to 10 years. And it is also a big part of my biography. And trust me, that's not a part that I chose to be kind of like really deep in the trenches of capital allocation into the defense industry in Europe. Specifically when it comes, of course, to call it my part of the industry, which is the systems are more inexpensive, they're faster to develop, and they're designed for scaling and producing. There you can basically, with the right information, I don't need any R&D money. I can pre-fund that innovation entirely. And in that space, I think we definitely see a lot of change. We see, when we talk about capital, the human capital really stepping up, which is an interesting aspect, I think, in all of this. Like a young generation deciding, yeah, this is a generational challenge for us. We want to play a part in this. And that's a very important part. But of course, there's the actual capital to how that will get financed. I would say Europe has been slower than it should have in terms of really embracing investments into the defense industry, always under the right regulatory framework, with the right ethical boundaries and so on and so forth. That's a non-negotiable. It has been slow to embrace that. Not so much slow in recognizing the problem, but just slow in enacting the changes necessary. Because for me, 2 years, and that's maybe 2 to 3 years, is a bit of a description for a time frame where it really started to happen and now it's really in full swing. That's a long time. And, I'll be the first to proudly state this. American investors, of course, have stepped up in that time as well, which we are thankful for. And that only led to the situation that now a company like ours is possible, where we'll, in that 2 years that we're around, take the next 2 years, into that, we'll probably spend $1 billion on research and development and production expansion. And that is money that was not there really before. So we see a different part of the economy kind of stepping up, going into. And we have developed, I think, from early stage venture funding to growth stage investors to now really tapping into the very large pools of capital. So now we have investors who have 50 billion, 100 billion available. So you see it is an interesting investment theme. And that is good that way because, of course, we need to bring it all together. The technological innovation, the procurement processes, which of course for us also a big unlock to attracting capital. The human capital, I think sometimes we underestimate how important it is, what power we have as industry. If you can make it clear to the people out there that it is okay to work in defense, it is okay if you're an engineering talent to think about how to defend your home country and the alliance. And of course the actual capital, which is also needed. And which also to a certain degree, at least in my part of the whole stack of military systems, can replace taxpayers' money, but can really replace also the R&D funding.
So Jay, I want to turn to you. You're at a different part of this spectrum within the space. You're a larger established company, one of these major primes that we're often talking about. This push for velocity, this push for rapid fulfillment of really delivering quickly. How have you experienced those shifts, and how are you approaching some of that need to be able to respond to those requirements and reduce that time to decision?
Yeah, I first start by saying, I hope everybody still thinks of Lockheed Martin as an incredibly innovative and forward-leaning company. We have things like our Skunk Works organization in Palmdale that have, for generations, established some of the cream of the crop of advanced technologies and capabilities. So the way that I look at it is, this is a great opportunity, just like this panel, for all of us to work collaboratively across the industry. There's requirements that we're all attacking that we need to get at faster than ever before. So how do we leverage the best expertise of all of us on the world stage across NATO to be able to get at these problems? So from our side, I think it continues to be more opportunities to partner, more opportunities to collaborate together. We invest heavily in venture, our own LM Ventures in terms of investing in emerging capabilities and technology.
Has that accelerated those kinds of partnerships
It has.
recently?
We've not only accelerated in the amount of companies we're dealing with, but also the funds that we're putting into those companies as well, for the pure reason of where can we do this 1 + 1 = 3 opportunity in terms of being able to accelerate with velocity some of the development. So we are not too proud to say that it doesn't have to be invented here from a Lockheed Martin standpoint. How do we get at it from, I think, that speed and velocity? So I think it shows up in all life cycle phases, though. I think we often think of like velocity in terms of development. To me, it's velocity in terms of everything. It's velocity in terms of development for all the reasons we just said. It's velocity in terms of production. How do we move up ramps faster? How do we think of new creative ways and everything under the sun to get at production differently, including how do we attack requirements? but then even the life cycle.
Yeah.
You know, part of the challenge for an organization, I'm sure Charles has the same challenge, when you have platforms deployed everywhere around the world in vast quantities, how do you make sure that we are, again, also moving with velocity in terms of the sustainment, regional sustainment? How do we use artificial intelligence to get at the pure mastery of data that we have quite a substantial amount of in the type of work that we do? So we're attacking it on all fronts.
So Charles, I do want to come to you on this point of velocity and how you reshape a business to think about executing on different timetables. I'd love to hear about your experience leading BAE through a moment like this, and also how has Russia's war in Ukraine shaped some of your thinking and the examples of their bravery?
I mean, it's been a pretty profound change. I mean, the drone, counter-drone that we see play out day in, day out in Ukraine is something that we've all learned some profound lessons from: defense of existing platforms, defense of your land, integrated air missile defense. The combination of swarming drones and high-end ballistic missile threats is an incredibly difficult challenge to face.
They're going to come out, and then he's going to make a right.
I need y'all just to back up. They don't feel comfortable. You guys being right here because President Erdogan is about to walk out. So we need some. No, they need you guys to move behind this because President Erdogan is walking out. Come here for a second. Yeah.
So where do you want us now? Let's go.
They're moving now? I'm not blocking it, right? No, I don't plan to sit down. I'm gonna have to move. I'm safe. I've been told 7 times. Am I in your shot? Okay, I love them. Thank you. And Verizon. I'm getting out of Verizon.
Are you done? Or do you have to do Yayında bir sorun var. Sol tarafa doğru gittiler abi. Dinlenme salonuydu, karşılama salonuydu. Orada Anadolu Ajansı fotoğrafçısı da gidiyor. Doğukan geliyor. Doğukan'ın yanında bir tane arkadaş var. Burada çalışan, diye gelen. Abdullah herhalde. Şişko olan mı? Osman. Ya kusura bakmayın. Şöyle alalım. Canlılarda. Sonra kapatıyoruz. Kapatıyoruz.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Volodymyr, who close the door? Great. Thank you. Volodymyr, great to see you, and welcome to the NATO Summit. What we are seeing over the last couple of months is what you guys are doing. It is really courageous. You are successful in hitting the Russian energy infrastructure, the Russian defense infrastructure, deep inside Russia. As you said in your speech, Putin is willing to sacrifice up to 30, some months even 35,000 of his own men being killed on the battlefield. Can you imagine the enormous loss this is for families and everyone? This is what the Russian president is willing to do. But militarily, it is crucial that you have these successes. Then on the front line, I mean, only 4 or 5 months ago, you still saw the Russians making gains, and now it is much less so. You are much more successful also on the front line. I think there's one big issue we have to work on. That's air defense, air defense, air defense. Making sure your cities, your vital infrastructure is protected. And by the way, when I list all the issues Russia is facing, one of the most important ones is what you're doing to their economy. The economy is in a very bad shape in Russia. So maybe just one message. Let me repeat what I said when I visited with the ambassadors of NATO in Kiev. If you are a young man in Russia today and you contemplate to join the military, you might be one of those 30,000. This month, next month, the months after, you know that your president in Russia, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, is willing to sacrifice you. So think about it again before you join the military. And again, thank you for being here and being such an incredible leader and friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you, dear Mark. Thank you, you personally, and thanks to President Erdogan and for the invitation to NATO Summit. Thank you for this opening forum, which is very important, Defense Industry Forum. Thank you for organization, and this is important, and I hope that our companies, not everybody, because we have hundreds of the companies, but some representatives of our sector, defense sector, will present what they do, how they do, and I think this is very important to share all this experience with partners. The second point, I agree with Mark, absolutely. We can speak about different initiatives which are important for Ukraine, Danish initiative, Czech initiative, anti-ballistic, the new initiative, but Mark is absolutely, first of all, is very helpful with the Pearl program. Thank you very much. Because of this program, we can get maybe sometimes not too much, but anyway, PAC-3, PAC-2 missiles from the United States. And tomorrow we will speak about different topics with President Trump and also about this. But also what is important is today to find a way how to get as quick as possible, as much as possible, missiles for Patriot systems. This is the most important thing. We will discuss with Mark this topic. We understand who is not only Americans, by the way, from our friends, they have these possibilities, and we need it very much, and it's urgent topic for us. I think you saw all these attacks from Russia, each day attacks. It's true that they begin to be weak on the battlefield. Russians, and they still a lot of soldiers, and still we have to defend our soldiers also. When we speak about defending, when we speak about air defense, we need it for civilians, but also for our army. We need them to defend them. And of course, we see that the weakness of Russia, we feel it, but it's not enough. We need more pressure, more anti-ballistic, and more sanctions on Russia.
Thank you
Thank you so much.